everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This week we have another very good friend of mine, someone we've actually talked about on the podcast before. We're going to welcome in Saul Goode. What's up, Saul? Hey buddy, how are you? Great to see you. How is it in Minnesota today?
It's quite beautiful actually. It's about 62, light breeze, cloudy.
Nice.
But yeah, we're
it's about the same here actually.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, it's great seeing you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you.
I was just telling everybody about, we've talked we didn't talk about you before, but we mentioned you. Obviously you and Nikki doing your music together, which is absolutely phenomenal. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to have you kind of tell us your story. I know I've heard it. But about, how everything, really came about from you, in the hospital to kind of where you're at now.
Sure.
You just kind of let us know about that.
Sure. So about 22 months ago, I was in and out of the emergency room. I have a medical staff, a medical team that at that time were checking on me on a daily basis. Both for my alcohol abuse as well as my mental health, my schizophrenia. And my nurse found me. I went about 6 times in March and April to the emergency room, and each time they sent me home. And I was down to about 128 pounds and drinking about a liter every 16 to 18 hours of Canadian whiskey. It was bad. It was really bad. At this point, I was ready to die. I had lost my best friend a year before to alcohol, and I had lived a good life, and I couldn't quit. I had tried. I tried and tried and tried. I tried, my team had tried everything. We tried harmful reduction. That was a mess. The idea was to put me on boxed wine, to take me from hard to boxed wine. You can imagine the results. Oh, yeah. Oh, anywho. So what happened was my nurse found me halfway under my bed, choking on my vomit. And she began CPR. And I was immediately put on a flight for life from my small town in southwest Minnesota to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I died twice on the flight. And I was in a coma, alcohol-induced coma. My sister, God, she was making funeral plans as well as long-term facility plans. The doctors weren't sure. It was 70-30. 70, I wouldn't make it. 30, if I did make it, it would probably be a vegetable because of the amount of time that I had been in and out. I came to Cinco de Mayo of 2023. May 5th. There was a priest there. And I realized something had gone very, 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 very wrong. And I made a promise to myself that I would never, ever drink again. And I promised that I would never lie to myself or anyone else ever again. I couldn't walk. Took me about 2 weeks to get my legs back, another 2 weeks to convalesce and get my strength back. I couldn't talk for the first week because I had been intubated. My sister, God love her, she was amazing through all of this. Absolutely incredible. We have a very shaky relationship because of this now. You know, it's shaky. It's really shaky. But then I went on to rehab for 3 months. I discovered Reframe in rehab, along with Smart Recovery and Recovery Dharma. But that's what got me. That was the starting point. That was the turning point. You know.
We're glad you're here.
Me too.
I'm glad you made it through.
Me too.
It's just how's the relationship been? And I've heard you talk about this before too, with your sister. And obviously, didn't you have a niece or two, I believe, as well?
I have 2 nieces, and I have a grandnephew and 2 grandnieces. My grandnephew's 9. My grandnieces are 7 and 3.
That's a fun age.
Yeah. Oh, the 3-year-old is. Oh, she is.
So how's the relationship, changed with your sister
Trust.
now? I mean, because it has been about 18 months now,
Yeah.
so
it's all about trust.
So much better.
No, it's all about trust. It's going to take a lifetime, the rest of my life, to regain the trust that I've lost. That's what it all boils down to. The love's there, but the hurt is there. The anger is still there.
Mm-hmm.
The almost resentful. She's almost resentful at times because I am succeeding in a way, where before, I didn't have a life. I really didn't. My life was alcohol. It's rough. It's work every day. We work on it every day,
Right.
because a lot, we don't talk about it, but in rehab, we lost 2 in my group in rehab, we don't talk about the loss. We gloss over it. It's very interesting. It's all, and I believe that we should. That it should be like if it scares the shit out of you, I'm sorry, but that's the entire fucking point. Yeah. This shit kills you. It kills people. And we don't say that enough. We talk about all the glory and all the, and my lowest point, what was your darkest? The shit kills you. And, that's really what it boils down to.
So, Saul, you mentioned, when you were starting on your recovery, you found Reframe, you found Smart Recovery, which I'm a huge advocate for. The one that I had never talked about, and actually haven't looked into, was the Recovery Dharma.
Sure.
If you could just kind of speak on that and what kind of role that's played in your recovery.
I had a Buddhist background. In my 20s, I started studying Buddhism. So when I saw that as an option, my substance abuse counselor was like, well, have you thought about Recovery Dharma? I was like, oh, let me go look. And it's a wonderful counter to the other 2, insofar as there's no sharing. It's read from the book, Recovery Dharma, the Dharma of Recovery, and half-hour reading from the book, and it begins with a half-hour meditation, then half-hour reading from the book, and that's it.
Oh, wow.
That's it.
And how are you finding the meditation?
They're
As
guided.
I was going to say.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
The meditations are guided and absolutely wonderful. They're all over the world. You just go to the recoverydharma.org, and there are meetings 24/7. I personally go to one of the meetings out of LA. I really enjoy that group. And Ryan, this, that with Smart Recovery, it's about finding your group. It's all about
Yes.
finding your group on those platforms, as opposed to Reframe, where we're one huge group. The other platforms, it's about finding your group, and sometimes that can be geographically based, but I find not necessarily. Even with Reframe, I'm a night owl, so I find that the group out in New Zealand at 2:00 in the morning here in the U.S. I love it. It's awesome. It's a great group. Great group. I don't sleep. After my coma, I sleep now 2.5 to 3 hours at a time. So I'm a night owl. I prefer the night. Recovery Dharma, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up the Reframe meeting in New Zealand. We just had Emma on the podcast.
I wasn't sure if I should say it. I was like,
no, it's okay. And she wouldn't care anyway. But it was funny because she was talking about, there on their time, it's like, 7:30 at night, which is kind of a witching hour for them because everything closes so early. But she goes, I love it when I get on and I see so many Americans, even though, for us it's 2:30, for you it's like, 1:30 in the morning. Yeah. And she just loves it. She thinks it's great because, in America, different from there, for us, that's, when stuff is either closing down and you're going home, you could be fighting through something, especially in the middle of the night. So, I'm sleepy at that time, so that ain't happening for me. But if I were to ever get up, I would definitely try it. But
every now and then, and then we get somebody who's in a crisis, from the States. It's 2:30 in the morning. I can't handle this. It's like, okay, well, let's get to action.
That's right. Let's dive in and figure it out.
Yeah. I'm a late night crisis evaluator. I will. Yes. I'm classic, and this is a lot of my OCD and my ADHD where. I will mistake mental exhaustion for sleepiness. So I'll be like, I'm so tired. I can't wait to get in the bed. Oh my goodness. And really what it is I'll lay down and I find that that's when my authentic time begins because it's quiet and it's me. To this day, sometimes after I take our daughter to school or not even just in the mornings, I'll come home and I'll sit in my car in the driveway. And he still asks, I think, more to play with me. But at first he's like, what are you doing? Like, why have you been sitting in your car for an hour? What could you possibly be doing? And I don't know what it is about just that time and being in the vehicle and it being alone. And, sometimes I'll be on the phone with a friend or sometimes I'll just be thumbing through something and an hour will pass. And I think it's just that stillness. There's no expectation. And it is sort of like, this might be a stretch, but it is sort of like a meditation.
Sure.
It's the quiet. It's the stillness. There's nothing expected from me. My daughter's at school. You're working out. There's no to-do list. And it took me a very long time in my life. And now I very much value my quiet alone time. But yeah, I like the stillness within yourself. And you've gotten into that too. Yours is more mornings, but I find that I'll lay in bed and then I'm there and I'm like, gosh, I've been so sleepy. I've been so tired. Why am I still up? It's because I'm genuinely enjoying that time and space just within myself.
Well, and meditation comes in so many different forms. I can be doing the dishes and, mindfully meditate while I'm doing the dishes. I believe prayer is a form of meditation. I believe that's a very deep, sincere form of meditation. I think a lot of people don't realize it as they're doing it, but that is a form of meditation. So, and it's critical to my recovery. Meditation is definitely. I meditate 3 times a day.
I love that. I think that we do all things, have this stigma behind meditation. You see in especially like movies and stuff, and they poke fun at it. But I think people don't realize meditation is not. It's not even an action. It is just an acknowledgement of yourself and the things around you. You're not pushing anything away. You're not bringing anything in. You are simply acknowledging how you feel and what's inside your head, and you're not fighting it, and you're allowing it to exist.
Well, when you hear the word, you think of someone sitting down cross-legged with their arms out, right?
Which is a
form of it,
too.
Which is fine. Sure. But for me, I walk and meditate. Which seems bizarre, but actually, way I've read, it's actually a great way to really clear your mind and kind of, ground yourself with things around you and the rhythm. Yeah. Which is wild. And then, now that I've been doing these, I do these cold showers literally every morning, and I will do a meditation while doing that. I mean, there's been times where I either felt like I was going to sleep or fall over just because you really gain yourself.
Yes.
You kind of get lost, which is,
wow.
It's really weird. I've never done this before up until, months ago where I really dove into it. And I absolutely love it. It's just, and like you said, I mean, hell, you can do it washing the dishes.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to do it. Just sitting in a chair, standing in a room. I mean, literally anywhere you could meditate now, which is phenomenal.
People say, I can't meditate because I can't quiet my mind. Well, if you're actively trying to quiet your mind, that's sort of the opposite of meditating.
Yes.
Right? I started years ago with using just an app, and I just did the free little trial because, I believe that information should be accessible, and you don't always have to clickbait pay for all these things, right? And the thing that they talked about in that, or he did, that I really liked, it worked for me, was just imagining cars passing down a street. Those are your thoughts. You acknowledge what the cars look like. Maybe they're emitting smoke and they stink and you don't like it, or it's really loud and irritating, or it's just a random blue car, you don't even pay attention. You notice them, you acknowledge them, you even may have an emotional reaction to them, but they simply just pass. They're in your vision and then they're gone. And that's what your thoughts are. You don't push them away, you don't hyper-focus. And even if you are hyper-focusing on them, then you just go back to your breathing, or you think, what's making me hyper-focus on this, or doing a little tap technique. And that made it so, for lack of a better word, easier for me, because it was it's just the acknowledgement. Yeah. Don't push, don't pull, just acknowledge. And so meditation, I think, has been something that's been great for both of us. I think it's something everyone can benefit from. Yeah.
Connection. That's the other difference for me this time around. Before I tried to do it alone. And I tried AA. I tried AA for a year. I think of AA as the acronym being angry abstinence. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Just a lot of angry people. And that's how I was. I'd come out of those meetings and I would want to drink, because it would just be the same thing over and over. It's like, oh my God. So that didn't work for me. So I tried to do it alone and I just couldn't. And then in rehab, the second day in rehab, my counselor was like, okay, so, he hands out the book. And I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. I'll walk right now. He's like, okay, hang on. Have you heard of Smart Recovery? I'm like, no. It's like, okay. So he hands me Smart Recovery workbook. And then when I got back to my room, I went online and I was like, man, let me just see what else is out there. And up comes Reframe. I was like, okay, now this sounds more like my thing. So I downloaded it. And sure enough, it was about 2:00 in the afternoon, and I just went, join. And I hopped right into a meeting, and I raised my hand. Yeah. And I was like, my name is Nathan, and I am in rehab, and I took it from there. And it's been an amazing 18 months.
Yeah, as I say, you and I are right around the same time. Yeah. I think you're maybe 15, 20 days ahead of me.
I am 543 today.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I remember, because it's 543. I was like, oh, that's
I think I'm 520, 528 or 529, somewhere. So, so we're but I remember when you first came on. I do. I remember that. And, it was pretty cool ever since, man. You're always on video, always sharing. I loved it. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it.
It's been the game changer. That has been the game changer. If people ask me, well, Saul, what's different? It's because I have this connection. I tried to leave it.
You've been a huge part of Reframe, that's for sure. I mean, it's the community part is got to be incredible.
It is. It's and I Reframe for me it's family. It really is. They know more about me than Most my friends, definitely. It's just it's an experiment. Let's be honest. It's a social experiment. I mean, it's a social platform. So it's radically different from, say, Smart Recovery or Recovery Dharma or even AA. But, I'm in for the long haul. I want to see how this works out. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Curious.
Well, out of this big connection, you made a very big connection with one of our fellow friends, Mickey.
Oh, yes.
And you started back in music, which is phenomenal, and you guys are doing great. But how has that been getting back into your music? That you were separated from for so long.
When I first got into recovery, I didn't touch a guitar for 15 years. And I would look at, when I was first couple of months in recovery, I would look at the guitars. I have several around, well, now I have way more, but I had several around the house. And I always associated drinking and drugging with writing and playing. Always. That was a given. I had Hemingway's curse. I felt that you couldn't write unless you were wasted. As simple as that. Your best shit comes out when you're wasted. Has to. All my heroes. That's the thing. It's full of shit. It's bullshit.
Right.
But I was in a meeting and somebody said, don't die with your song still in you. And it rocked my world. And I immediately picked up the guitar after that meeting and wrote the first song off of Desiree, Tales from Recovery Road. And I didn't look back. And I had seen Mickey before, and she had dropped a link in the creatives meeting to her video of a song that she had written. And I was like, oh, holy crap, good voice. I need that voice. Because I'm old now. I'm 58. I'm like, my days of singing. I had a great voice at one time. I had 2.5 octaves. But now it's like, I'm lucky if I can pull 2. If I can pull off 2, I'm happy. I just get very creative about it. But her voice was just immediately, I was like, that's a classically trained voice. You could just tell. So I was like, I need that voice. And I reached out to her. I spent a day writing out how the hell I was going to reach out to her, because I didn't want to come off as some creepy dude. Hey, babe, how's it going?
Let's sing together.
Let's hang out and jam. Oh my God, how creepy is that? I'm 20 years old. She's like, she could be my daughter. I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this? So finally, I wrote it out and I sent it off, and I just kind of crossed my fingers. And she came right back. She's like, yeah, are you a musician? I'm like, oh, okay, I forgot that part. So I put a link into all my catalog of music, and then she was like, "Okay, yes, let's work together." And it's been great. She came out here for 4.5 days, and we recorded this next album, which is being released this Saturday, Day of the Dead. It's called Patchwork. It's by Two Star Dawn. It's a double album. It's got 19 songs, and she's on every one of them. No, she's on 17 out of 19. There you go. The 2 of them I kept for me. I do that sometimes. But yeah, it's just been incredible. It's been an incredible journey. And I am writing, when I was writing, in the past 9 months, I have written, produced, and recorded 2 albums, an EP, and 6 singles in the past 9 months.
Wow.
Making up for 15 years of, not doing anything. And I have already got the next album, which is Angel and Misery, done. Well, not done, but written. And then I'm 3 songs into the next album after that, which is all about recovery again. So, yeah, very busy. Very busy.
Well, I'm a big fan. I know Ryan is too, and we've had multiple artists and musicians on there or on our podcast. We talked about it with Static. We've talked about it with Mickey, and you brought it up on your own, which I think is amazing. That this false notion that you must have some sort of like elevated, altered mind in order to create art. And it's crazy because you hear that as an artist, right? As you grow up and you're learning about even just like, Mozart and all of these wonderful classic and rock and roll and all these people who were like, yeah, well, they were like on acid and ecstasy and doing all these things. And the moment that you realize it's all bullshit, you really kind of look at yourself and go, I can't believe I actually thought that the best version of myself could put out the best version of my art in a clouded state of mind. So I've asked Mickey and I'll ask Static, what is the biggest difference that you've seen, the connection that you've had with your music now as opposed to when you were in active use?
I don't half-ass. Anymore. And, I was about to say, when I was writing Desiree, I was writing 10 to 1. So 10 shit songs to 1 good one. Now I am, after 9 months of constantly writing, I'm down to 4 to 1. And I think that's going to be the best. That's the best I'm going to get. I'm at my peak now. I'm at my peak. But, yeah, I don't bullshit anymore. Before, when you're wasted, you half-ass everything. Do I really have to write a bridge? I'll just repeat the same chorus, repeat this verse, same as the first. Yeah, we all know, and we know when we're doing it. I made the mistake of going back and listening to some of my early stuff. Shiver.
That's a common thread with everybody too. They're like, now I go back and listen and watch, and they're like, it starts out really good, obviously, and then what Mickey was saying, one where she and she's already shared this on the podcast, so I know it's okay to bring it up, where she played this character in sort of like a kind of burlesque sort of show, and her whole character was around this woman who always had martini or bourbon or whatever, and she sort of morphed into that, which with acting, and I did more musical theater, you do sort of emulate these characters. And she would notice that she would think she would sound great, like, oh my God, I killed it. And then she goes back and looks and is like, oh my God. Like, why didn't anybody tell me?
Oh my God, I killed it.
Right. I killed it. Like in a bad way. But that's all part of the journey and the story too, right? And the fact that y'all can all say that and kind of giggle at it, that's really heartwarming. And that brings me back something I wanted to ask earlier as far as you practice Buddhism. So tell me how that's playing into your recovery, your music, the relationship with your sister,
Sure.
All of that. I'm interested.
I can sum up Buddhism with one word: compassion. Compassion. And everybody who knows me on all the platforms, I always, when I sign off, I always say, let's all practice some self-compassion and some self-kindfulness. Because this journey is hard as fuck. This is one of the hardest things I've ever done, hands down. Now it's not getting easier, it's getting better. But with Buddhism, the key is empathy. I think that's what drew me to Buddhism, because I'm very empathetic. And the key is, it's not a lack of feeling. It's, if anything, an overwhelming sense of feeling. To be connected in every sense. I look for a part of me in everyone I see, in every conversation I have, in everyone I look in their eyes, and I look for a part of me within them. And I find that connection. And that helps to develop the compassion between us.
I love that.
I could go further, but I think that's best without getting into rules and regs and that sort of thing. I think the Dalai Lama would be okay with me just saying okay.
No, I mean, and that's, that's on a very surface level, that's what everyone you would hope is striving for, right? And it's so difficult, and you find that, when people lash out, it is a discomfort and an insecurity within themselves. I like that anytime you've spoken, I've always noticed you say compassionate to myself and others. It's always myself and others. And it's sort of this, what I am fulfilling within myself and recognizing within myself, and then also putting that out into the world for others. And I think that's the part that people miss. And I see that with you. That's the part where it starts, well, before I can allow myself compassion for anyone else, understanding, I have to reconcile that within myself first. Otherwise I have nothing to move forward with.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
And I think that's, I can even just hear it in your voice. You're very calm, and I'm sure you have a beautiful singing voice. I'm a huge fan. I've listened to yours and Mickey's music, and I think what y'all are doing together is absolutely wonderful, and it's beautiful. I love to see it.
Mickey is my muse. I love writing for Mickey. Mickey, the other day, she cracked me up. She's like, "You're the most feminine heterosexual male I've ever known." All right, I'm going to take that as a compliment, but okay.
That's a huge compliment.
That is a huge compliment.
But I've always been in touch with my feminine side. I've never had any problems with that. I think I get that from my mother. My mother, was a very strong woman. I always surrounded myself with strong women, and Mickey is a very strong woman. A very strong woman.
Mickey is fantastic. We had the privilege of meeting her when we were in New Orleans, and it was an instant just connection, and I think she's great, and I see what she loves about you too. You guys definitely share that energy.
It was incredible when she came here. I have a 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm schizophrenic, and I'm basically a hermit. I am a shut-in. So my sister was terrified. My med team were on red alert. The idea of somebody staying here with me for 4 days, well, it's going to be 5 days, they were terrified. And I was terrified. I went from back and forth between absolute exultation to terror, back and forth.
Yeah.
And yet, when it was as if it was incredible. It was just so natural, so at ease. I was so at ease. Just a wonderful individual and a great person to write for. Really great person to write for. And she started to write her own songs. What I do is I'll give her a chorus or maybe a first verse and say, "Okay, all you," and off she goes. And she just knocks them out of the park every time, And that's been great to watch. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I feel like, and I've met, I don't know how many people off of, out of recovery, but a reframe. It's crazy when you're talking about, you meet her and everything's just like, it's almost like you've known each other for years, even though it's, only been within a year. It really is. It's, you really get your guard down. You know what each other, even though your paths are completely different, you know what the other person has been through. And there's just something very calming and putting your guard down and loving.
Yes.
That you can't get from anyone else that hasn't been through it before, that doesn't know.
No, we have that commonality.
I'm sure you felt that way.
We have that. And that comes before music with us. With our relationship, recovery is first and foremost.
Sure.
That's our, that's the foundation. Music is after, but the foundation is recovery. And that commonality is essential to our relationship. It's absolutely essential.
So what does the future look like for Saul going forward?
I think I'm going to keep writing, I'm now that I've got patchwork done, now I'm going to start shopping her. I'll shop her, get her. It'll be costly. It always is. But I want her to get noticed now. I've put a lot of work into this. So now it's time to like say, okay, all right, let's invest more money. But that's part of it too. I mean, this is more than a hobby for me. I used to make music as a living, so I have a good idea. I love the world is so different from when I started back as a teenager. My first band, we were in New York, going up and down Fifth Avenue, friggin' shopping cassette tapes, demos. It's so different now. My music is all over the world right now. Anybody in the world can listen to my music. That's a beautiful thing. That is such a beautiful thing. As an artist, that's what I've always wanted all my life, is for people, the world, to be able to hear my music. So I'm already there in a way. I've already completed. But now I'm like, okay, now let's
level up.
Yeah, let's take her up.
Yeah.
Let's take her up. Yeah, definitely.
I'm excited to watch it all unfold.
Yeah, it's been great.
I mean,
it's been great to see both of you guys. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Saul, we'll get you out of here pretty soon. I got just one question for you that I ask all my guests, and you have to go back to your drinking days.
Okay.
But I've got to hear you, surely to God, especially being in the music industry, you have a hell of a pee story.
Drunken pee story.
Drunken pee story. All right. Oh, Lord, this is embarrassing.
The men have a harder time with this. I pointed this out on our
which is really surprising to me.
I had to sit. I was like,
because men, they're like, we pee on everything.
Yeah.
So,
So we're on tour, and it's late. We're coming into Moab National Park, and me and the drummer, the rest of the band have gone on to Vegas, but me and the drummer, we had it in our heads that we had to go to Moab. Might have had something to do with the shrooms, but off we went. So it's a clear night. We get into our little camping spot, and we have our tent was one of those, you just throw it and the thing just goes, whoop, which was wonderful, all in slow motion, of course. And we had a bottle of wine, and we sat on the picnic table, and we drank that, and we were loud and obnoxious and everything else. And I went to go pee. So off I go. It's pitch black. I can't see a thing. There's no moon, nothing, just stars. I can't see a thing. So I'm stumbling around, and I think it's a boulder. And I'm peeing, and I hear this, and it's the sound of what water makes when it hits fabric.
oh no.
Exactly. I froze. Midstream. Tucked everything in, turned around, hauled ass, yelled, "We gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go." He knew me well enough that from previous adventures that meant red alert, we gotta get the fuck out of here. So we left the tent and hauled ass and just got out of there. And that's my pee story. And God, I hope I hope there's nobody listening who was in Moab in 91, summer in July of 91.
I remember somebody pissing all over
the damn tent.
I mean, one could only hope that they pissed on someone else's tent and they had left too and just left their tent behind and there's nobody in it.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah. Bit embarrassing.
All right, Saul. Well, thanks a lot for being on the show, brother.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we will see you soon.
All right. Sounds
Peace,
good.
brother.
Bye-bye.
See you, buddy. If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to
Boom.
get notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.